We finally have a live action How to Train Your Dragon, and let's be real here, the only question that's on everybody's mind is this version actually better than the original? Look, the original animated film is iconic. It's beautiful, it's emotional, and sacred to so many people. So today I'm breaking down exactly what the new live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon got right and where it stumbles. Now, this isn't a straight up review of the movie or even a frame by frame breakdown of it. I want to talk about the feeling of it. What changed, what stayed the same, and does this version bring anything new to the table? Let's dive in. Let's go and start with the thing that hit the hardest for me right away, and that is the flying scenes. Look, I can tell you anything I want about the movie, but you have to see it to believe it. When I was watching this movie, when Hiccup jumps on Toothless for the first time and they are flying through the rocks and near the ocean, just like in the original movie, this thing is on a whole different level. But you have to remember, the original came out 15 years ago, so they learned some new things as far as what they can do with the camera and what the limitations were with animation and what the limitations are with live action. They took full advantage of it. We're talking Top Gun Maverick level of intensity. It was fast, it was dangerous, and just totally immersive. I was blown away by how I was so engaged with this scene. Once again, great action. It was something that of course you're gonna be engaged with, but good lord, this thing was amazing to see. There's this real sense of speed and weight that just feels really grounded, like you're hanging on for dear life, like if you're on Toothless as the scene is going forward. I don't know how they did it, but it worked so well. And the cinematography just makes it feel real. It's not just this flashy CGI mess, it's intense in a way that animation never really could replicate. And another thing in this movie that really took me by surprise of how it just worked in this world was Toothless. I didn't think a fully CGI dragon would actually fit in this grounded real world because the sets, the costumes, having everybody be an actual person in this universe, it just felt authentic. It felt like we were in a Viking village and everything just worked. The movie's beautiful. Whether that's a background CGI or if it's an actual set, the whole thing worked. It looks beautiful. So when they were gonna drop not only a CGI dragon, of course all the dragons are gonna be CGI, but Toothless looks identical to how he looked in the animated movie. So to me, my mind couldn't process when I first saw the trailer, how does it look as good as it looks? And then I watched the movie, and in the context of the movie, it works even better. Like, Toothless is still the same dragon that we grew to love back when the first one just came out. He's expressive, he's playful, it's still the same character. And yet somehow they preserved all of that personality in a more realistic setting, and that is not easy. We've seen these live action remakes be done with these CGI characters that we loved and had so much personality, and just we love those characters, but it doesn't translate to live action all the time. This time it does. But what really elevated this version for me is the cast. The emotional moments just land so much harder for me in the live action remake. It's essentially a beat for beat remake of the original. So the same story beats are happening, the same character arcs are happening, the same basically personalities are happening across the board. But the fact that this is a real person, for whatever reason, just broke that barrier of being a little bit more authentic, a little bit more relatable. I understand a lot of people love the animated movie, and like I said, we're getting the same thing here. But breaking that barrier of animation to live action just worked in this scenario for me. Like, the actors just have these expressions and you can just see the emotions in their eyes, in their voice, and it just meshed so well together that, sometimes, unfortunately, animation can't always deliver on that front. There's just something powerful about seeing a real face struggle, react, connect with each other. And the best example of what I'm talking about here is Gerard Butler as Stoic. He voiced the character in the original. He's back playing the character in this version, and the dude just knocks it out of the park. He just does, from start to finish. You can see the emotion in his eyes. He brings the same intensity in the voice as he did back then. But now, when I was watching this, I saw Leonidas in this character. He brought that same level, like I said, of intensity, but just that personality of going from way up here, super intense, super threatening, but then he's also able to bring it down here to where he's this father, and he cares about his son. He cares about the village, and there's just something that, of course, the animation was great in the original and it worked. I'm not taking anything away from that. If I had to compare the two versions, I'm taking the live action. Now, surprisingly, one of the biggest wins for me of this movie was the humor, the group dynamic of everybody learning how to fight dragons, the sarcasm that a lot of the characters bring. It was hilarious the way that everybody's kind of swooning over Astrid, and it just worked. And I think it's because they are live action. These are real people that you've been in situations, similar to this, or people that maybe remind you of these people. And it's just that little barrier that's broken from animation to live action that made the humor work. Like all the kids and their banter, it was just this fun, chaotic, real world charm that the animated version touched on, but could never really hit just like this one did. It is messier, but it works better because it feels authentic, and it feels like if you walked into a middle school or a high school or something, this is kind of what you would see. Now, as much as I really liked this movie, there was one big issue that I had, and that was the pacing. The first half was great. The second half moved a little bit too fast for me. Like the first half, they were developing where we were, what we were doing, what this world was, and more importantly, the dynamics between Hiccup and his dad, Hiccup and Astrid, and the most important, Hiccup and Toothless. So when those relationships develop, it feels rewarding, it feels earned, it feels great, but then the back half of the movie really just flew by, where we're jumping from, this thing happens in the middle of the movie, and we are just going from point A to point B to point C, but it doesn't feel smooth. It doesn't feel realistic, where, okay, that happened that fast, okay, I guess that's what's happening. But the animated movie does it the same exact way. Like I said, shot for shot remake, give or take a few things. So let me know in the comments below if you feel this exact same way, where animated movies, DreamWorks, Disney, doesn't really matter. How is it that they're able to have these animated stories that work so well, but at the same time, they are jumping just like my complaint with this thing is, where animation can get that pass, I guess? Like it just doesn't transition as good as the animation was. So while both versions do the same thing, the animated version just works so much better as far as the pacing goes. But what's really interesting is, despite those flaws that I have with it, the core story stays the exact same, and honestly, that is the right move. I don't really know what I want. I don't really know what a lot of people want as far as the live action remakes go, because for the longest time, I'm over here saying, if a live action remake is happening, it has to add something. It has to give me a reason for this movie to be made, because the movie already exists out there, and if it's being remade, then the original was an icon. It doesn't really need a remake, right? So the original story is nearly perfect, and they clearly knew not to mess with what happens in that movie. But what they did change is how deeply you connect with the characters. And like I said before, that's probably because they are actual human beings. So there's a little bit more that I can relate to, there's a little bit more that I care about, and then what they give me back with the emotion in their eyes and their face and their expressions. Like it's the same arc, but it just hits different when you can see real people go through it. And that connection is what really made this movie stand above the other one for me. So does the live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon actually beat the original? For me, it does. Now the original is more rewatchable, it's tighter, it's more stylized, and has that timeless magic that animation will always have, or almost always have, over a live action adaptation. But this remake, it is a fantastic adaptation. The flying scenes are breathtaking, the emotion is stronger, the humor feels more real, and somehow, I don't know how they did it, I still don't know how they did it, they pulled off a Toothless that steals the show in a live action world. It didn't need to reinvent the story, it just needed to respect it, and that's exactly what this version does. If you're a longtime fan, you're really going to appreciate how much care actually went into this, and if this is your first time going to the Isle of Berk, you are in for a treat. But now I want to hear from you, did the live action remake live up to your expectations, or does the original still reign supreme? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.